It has been more than 1 year at this time where I was part of the Techstars New York City cohort of 2023. I can't believe it's been a year. Last year, around this time, I was on a stage, a massive auditorium in front of about 500 people, talking about my startup in front of bright lights and hopefully were loud applause. It was an amazing, surreal experience, and being accepted and being part of the Techstars program was undoubtedly a big break for us as a startup at that point, where we were kind of small and pretty early. But then the faith and the journey that we went through Techstars was pretty huge for us, and made a big role in determining where we are at this time. So even after 1 year of Techstars, we are still alive, we are still kicking. So I think that's a good sign for us, being a startup. I had released a video immediately after the Techstars cohort last year about my experience, and a lot of startups reached out to me. A lot of people reached out to me based on that video and asked me for my true feelings of what I actually felt and what I shared in the video was true or not. And so after 1 year looking back, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts, just expand upon looking back how things felt like, and what are some of the good things, or let's say 3 good things that came out of Techstars, and 3 not so good things that I felt when looking back at that time when I was in the cohort. So let's talk about the good. So perhaps the biggest plus point, the biggest advantage, the biggest positivity that I experienced being part of the Techstars program was the team at Techstars, led by Jordan, who was the managing director, Andrew, who was the principal, and Elliot, and the supporting staff who kind of helped us along, like Julia and Michael and so on. They were insanely helpful for us. They played a big role in supporting us throughout. So I would say that was one of the biggest pluses for us. Not only did they give us advice, they spent time with us, but even after graduating from the cohort, they spent a lot of their time and social capital and personal networks to help support fundraising efforts, customer acquisition efforts, and growth efforts for not just me, but all my other fellow cohort companies as well. And so that, I think, they have gone above and beyond what might be expected of the managing team of an accelerator. And that, I think, perhaps was one of the biggest pluses for us as a startup. And plus, since they were entrepreneurs themselves, I think the inputs that they gave were pretty helpful, insightful, that we may not have gone from elsewhere. Plus, since they were such wonderful people, they had a network of so many people who had supported them in their journey, that their friends, some of them were absolutely wonderful entrepreneurs and support system, that they decided to spend time with the cohort startups like us and support us. I think that was undoubtedly the biggest plus point, being the part of the startup. The second, like I said, is the access to the other entrepreneurs in the Techstars community, access to the networks of the other startups that we have. Because at that time, it was just fresh after the pandemic, everyone was in their little bubble. So we got an opportunity to all come together and work together and see each other's quirks, each other's working styles, each other's issues that they were freely able to air within our group. I think that more than anything, played a big role in helping me as an entrepreneur and my team being part of the startup to get motivated and just keep moving ahead, which was the third good thing, which was the boost in morale for me and my team and my early investors, being selected to one of the hardest accelerators to get into, apparently, according to Jordan, even harder than getting into Harvard Business School. And so that was a great feeling, being validated, having that reputation of being selected after a rigorous interview and selection process, and having the faith bestowed upon you just based on you as a person and the idea that you're working on. And that was undoubtedly a huge plus for us. Now, moving on to the not so great things that I felt is it is expensive. They take a massive chunk of your business, just like most of the accelerators do. And so the biggest question that I get from people who are asking me about my experience is that, is it worth the percentage, the massive percentage points that you would be giving up just being a part of the accelerator? Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty involved. Obviously, it is a huge decision to part with a portion of your business with no guarantees. And there's a lot of uncertainties involved, and it does pain. It is quite painful at that point, and even later on looking at the cap table. And so that is one of the things, and it's just part of being an accelerator. And you could argue either ways. You can say that, hey, you're getting this massive access that you would not normally, but other time you say that is 7% or 10% or whatever it is that you're giving, is it worth the monetary value and the future value that you might get? So that is definitely a question that keeps bugging not just me but every startup in the ecosystem. Second is that it is a reality that the novelty of being a Techstars backed company wears off as your startup grows, as things evolve, as time passes. And that, I think, goes with being a part of any reputed institute or organization. And so it is a reality that the most advantage that you might get in terms of momentum, in terms of hype, is immediately after the demo day. And so as time passes, obviously it ebbs as it goes on. So that is something to keep in mind. That is something to accept, where if you are part of an accelerator, you have given such massive equity points to being part of such a community. It is important to make sure that you are on it and you spend a lot of time and effort in a continued way to take advantage of all the resources that are available to you. The third point that I believe is could be considered not so good experience for me is that the entirety of the support that I have received is because of the generosity, the strength of the managing team of New York City, the cohort which I was a part of. I feel that the Techstars as a whole organization should perhaps be in a position to support the startups even after, beyond being part of the cohort, beyond being the ecosystem. Especially the fundraising efforts, for example. As startups grow, they obviously they have bigger valuations, they have bigger networks, and so on. So even though Techstars centralized has a follow-up option to stack on top of any next rounds that you may participate, I think it's about 150, 200,000 if I'm not mistaken. That is the extent to which Techstars as a centralized organization supports the startups. Now, granted, since the New York managing director that I had and his team still continues to support me, I think that the centralized Techstars organization could do a little bit more, because they have such a reputation. They have this entire huge network in their disposal. Maybe they could set up a syndicate or a fund to support startups beyond seed round or in Series A or Series B. I think that the continued fundraising and organizational support could play a big role. Now, like I said, they do have some programs in place to support the alumni network. They have the wonderful Techstars portal, the Techstars universe, which gives access to certain deals from AWS credits to some of the other sponsors who gives startups like us a good heads up. But like I said, as time passes, as the novelty wears off, it would be good to have a greater level of support from the centralized Techstars organization, and not just have us rely on the generosity of the just the cohort that we were a part of. So that's my only thing, that I think they could, if they wish to do something better to help the startups going forward. So in conclusion, just summarizing the whole thing, Techstars was for me, for Xena, a massive boon. I would do it 10 times over. I would hope that a lot of the startups being part of such an accelerator like Techstars is a big plus, and the positives far outweigh the negatives that I had mentioned in the past. And so I would say that for a lot of people reaching out to me, you should definitely consider it, despite being expensive. And you should also look into who the managing director is, who the managing team is for the particular cohort of Techstars or Y Combinator or whichever accelerator you're going, because your success and the support that you receive will be directly correlated to how much the managing team is willing to support you. We have been very fortunate, and so has been my cohort. And like I said, I would do it all over again.